And it looks like we're live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening from Los Angeles or from the West Coast, and good evening from the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast, and then Andrew's on the East Coast. Appreciate you guys for everyone who are going to stop in the next few minutes or so, because I know YouTube lags a little bit with the notifications. But today I'm joined by one of my friends, Andrew Shear from Practical Personal Finance. He and I did he interviewed me on his channel. What I thought was a few months ago, but it was actually, I looked it up today, and it was almost a year ago. So time is just flying right past. So we got Freestyle in the house. What's going on, Freestyle? We got Omer in the house. So Andrew has a really good channel on personal finance. We're gonna get into saving money, becoming debt free, and some of the things that's been able to, or that's how it impacted our lifestyle for the better. But before we get into all that, Andrew, go ahead and introduce yourself to the community.
Well, hey everyone, my name is Andrew Shear. My YouTube channel is called Practical Personal Finance. I'm 32 years old. I'm debt free. I've been debt free for close to 2 years now. I became a homeowner for the first time in 2021. So I bought my first home with my wife, and we're living here. I have my 7-month-old son, Harrison, and my 4-month-old puppy, Teddy, living with us here at the house. And we're just enjoying life. And right now I'm a YouTuber slash stay-at-home dad, and my wife, she's our main breadwinner in the household. She's a data analyst. So just enjoying life and offering up advice about my experiences in that have to do with money and my knowledge about money, what I know about money, to hopefully help others on that topic.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Glad to have you on because we were talking about it before this stream started, but my most recent book, and it's not a good, it doesn't look new anymore. It's kind of worn out, but in this book right here, I have a book called The Five Foundations of Contentment that I wrote about a year or published a year ago, and one of the five foundations of contentment are financial health. And who better to bring on? Excuse me, who better to bring on talk about personal finance, than Andrew? So glad you're here. We actually, the way we met, it was actually kind of a funny story. It's kind of cool too. But I was on Reddit with my burner account. I was, I was sharing my personal or how I got out of debt, and Andrew messaged me and he said, "Hey, I have a great YouTube channel about personal finance. I'd love to interview you." And at first I was hesitant because on Reddit you're kind of anonymous, but I took a look at Andrew's videos. I really liked it, and we decided to do it. So yeah, kind of a cool story there. So, Andrew, you said that you're debt free now. Ha- what type of benefits has that given you? Have you been able to kind of save money quickly? Have you been able to have you had more money to invest? Talk about what that experience has been like.
Man, so being debt free is allowed opened up so many opportunities in my life. I'd say the top three. I'm going to give you the top three. Number one is the flexibility. Being that we're debt free, we don't have like those obligations on a month to month basis. And so what I've been able to do with my son being born last November, and with us getting a new puppy in April of this year, it's allowed me to kind of be a stay-at-home parent for a certain period of time, and that's been just really really valuable to me personally to have those experiences. Raising my son, raising my puppy as well. And although it's been tough, it hasn't been easy, but it's not like I have to bring my son to daycare every day and go to work or something like that. I had that choice where I can say, hey, I'm gonna be the one that's taking care of the kid during the day. So the freedom of choice is just number one. Number two, debt free really was key. Being debt free was key to my wife and I buying our first home, because we wanted we wanted certain things that we were looking for when we were purchasing a home. And just with the pandemic going on, I had my own small business, which the income from that was in flux because the pandemic was happening. So we weren't able to rely on my income specifically, being a small business owner. with the business income in flux. Mortgage companies don't like that with lenders. So having my wife's income and her being the sole earner, we were still able to afford the home we wanted, even on just her income. So because we were debt free, we didn't have that debt obligation, and our debt to income ratio for when we took out our mortgage was essentially zero. So we were able to afford the home we wanted, even though my business income was just so unreliable during the pandemic. And number three, what was the last thing I wanted to talk about? Saving money for retirement. So like that money that we were just really shoveling towards the debt every month. Now that we're debt free, we're just able to kind of pile that money into retirement accounts like our Roth IRA accounts, and my wife's 401k from her work. So that's just been a game changer, how we've been able to, transition from, getting out of the red and then going up into the black now. As time goes on, and going from having a negative net worth to having an ever increasing positive net worth now.
Yeah, absolutely. Becoming debt free, just like you, it's been a life changer for me as well. For me, I'm not married and don't have any kids, and that's kind of by design because, for me, I wanted to get out of debt and start traveling, and as soon as I got close to that, the lockdowns happened. It's like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to put it off for now. But but yeah, it's getting out of debt. Once you get out of debt, it's amazing, but the process itself is such a grind. I know because I've been there. So I know you talked about the benefits, kind of like the fruit of becoming debt free. But can you talk a little bit about what that process was like and how you kind of got, or how you paid off the debt? Because I know a lot of people that are in debt, and a lot of them think it's impossible. But we're two of us, we're living proof that it's possible to become debt free, especially with today's age where there's so many side hustles for me. Doing DoorDash and food delivery was a game changer for me because after I left my 9 to 5 or my weekend retail sales job, I did food delivery right after that. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you might have budgeted, or how you got out of debt?
Absolutely. So, like everything else, everything that you can accomplish in life, it all starts with that vision. So the first thing was I had a vision. I was like, you know what, in the future, X number of years down the road, I want to be debt free, and this is what my life's going to be like when I'm debt free, and that's something that I want. So I really, decided that that's a goal I wanted to achieve personally. And after you have that vision, the next thing that you got to always do is come up with a plan to achieve it. So it's kind of like you have that goal, and then you have the steps that you're going to take to reach that goal. And so the plan really involved, as far as getting out of debt, was getting really clear on what sort of debts I had first and how much those debts were. So I'm sure you may have heard it, time and time again, but you gotta figure out every single debt that you have. You got to write down a list of all those debts. And in our case, there was over $180,000
Wow.
of personal debt. That's not including any kind of mortgage or anything. That's all student loans and car loans. So, after we had that vision, and we had that game plan, we had that list of all our debts. We had to kind of come up with a game plan for how we're going to do it. And for us, it was how can we get out of debt as quickly as possible? How can we, increase our income as much as possible and decrease our outgo as much as possible? So on the income side, it all came down to, picking up extra work whenever I could, and taking on work myself, and working in the evenings. I had that luxury as someone that owns a small business, that I could, do additional work in the evening whenever I needed to, or whenever I could, and was physically able to, wasn't too tired or anything. And so I was able to do that, rather than, farming work out to contractors or something like that. I was like, all right, I'm going to keep it in house. I'm going to do it myself. It's going to be a grind, but I'm going to get it done. So, but even if you don't have a small business, you can still do things. You can, do things like John was saying, like do food delivery in the evening, drive for Uber in the evening, things like that, just to earn that extra income. The gig economy has made that possible. But at the same time, we had to reduce our outgo as much as possible. And I think John mentioned, like, the word budgeting, and I like to think of it as making a spending plan, because people hear that word budgeting and their eyes kind of gloss over a little bit, because you always hear about, oh, you got to make a budget, you got to stay on a budget, but really to me and to my wife, it was just about creating a plan for how we're going to spend our money on a monthly basis. That's really what it was. I mean, if you want to break it down and say, this is what budgeting actually is, not everyone sees it like that. So, but we created a plan. We sat down, before the first of every month. Maybe it was like the 28th or the 29th of the month before, and we said, all right, here's how we're going to spend our money in the coming month. And we did our absolute best every single month to stick to that plan. When we had the meeting to discuss how we were going to spend the money, what we did is we really had some discussions about what we were spending the money on, to where we didn't want to like starve ourselves of not having food to eat or something like that. We also didn't want to give up certain, we had hobbies that we like to do. So it was more about kind of like cutting back where we could and finding creative ways to save money and reduce our spending each month. And I felt like that was a lot of fun. So, we did that, and we really grinded it out for a couple of years. Transitions in work, transitions in life. Somewhere along the way, we moved 900 miles north to a new state, so that my wife could pursue a new career path, which boosted her income. So all these little things that helped us boost the income, reduce the outgo, and eventually, about little less than 2.5 years after we set that original goal and set out on that journey, we hit that final, like, make this payment button, and we were debt free. So I think that's kind of like, in a nutshell, that's kind of how we did it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's very powerful. It seems like you guys made a lot of lifestyle changes. What it might have been tough at the time, but I'm sure now, not especially now that you've got accustomed to it. It seems like things are a lot better for you guys. For me, it was more minimalism changed my life. I kind of got into minimalism right when I started my debt free journey. It was just basically um, you know focus on things and have things in your life that bring value to you. And I realized that I had a lot of stuff, especially in my household, where I didn't need. I just sold, as much as I can on eBay and stuff like that. But on topic of lifestyle, I know we're backtracking here a little bit, but I think it's really important to talk about lifestyle because, you and I, we both had a lifestyle that that wasn't potentially wasn't sustainable. For me, you know, I got into debt, especially when I was in college. I had $30,000 student loans when I graduated, bunch of credit card debt, and for me, my mindset was that, oh, don't worry, I'll start making six figures and I'll pay it off there. So I just kept consuming stuff. I ate out a lot. I bought really nice cars. I bought cell phones, all this stuff, clothing, brand name clothing, and I guess it's just something I had to learn along the way in my 20s. But what would you say your lifestyle was like before you got out of debt? Because I think a lot of people will be able to relate nowadays.
Yeah, I think that I see a lot of parallels between what you're talking about with, how you had your lifestyle a certain way before going on that mission to get out of debt, and having a different lifestyle now. I mean, when I think of the word lifestyle, I think of things like, what kind of car you drive. I think of like where you get your food, and what kind of food you eat, some of the activities that you do. So, as an example, I could talk about all three of those things, like what kind of car you drive. So when I was in debt, I had graduated from college, and, I was like, you know what, I'm a business owner now. I need a new car. So I leased a brand new car. And then after that lease was up, I leased another brand new car. So I leased two brand new cars in a row. And, when we were close to getting out of debt, there was an opportunity for me to. I was at the end of the second car's lease, and there was an opportunity for me to inherit grandma's car. So I, wholeheartedly accepted, the inheritance of grandma's car. I mean, grandma's still around, but she just didn't drive anymore. So I took over her car, and now I have a car that's completely paid for, and I don't have any car payments anymore. And yeah, it's a 2005 Ford Taurus, and I'm proud to say that. It's not a flashy new car anymore, but it's a car that's completely paid off, and I haven't made a car payment in over 2 years now. So that's huge, and that's a lifestyle change. You go from driving a shiny new car with all the fancy tech in there to a car that's got no tech, no Bluetooth, no aux input, nothing like no backup camera, nothing like that. So
That's a wake up call right there.
those things that you get used to, it's yeah. And at first the cruise control didn't work either. I got that fixed. Um, so the second thing, where you get your food, where you eat out. So when we were getting out of debt, beforehand, eating at restaurants quite frequently, dining out, taking business clients out to lunch, um, you know, going out to dinner every week with my, at the time, my girlfriend slash fiance. um, and then just it was a lot of eating out at restaurants, and it didn't necessarily need to be. But when we started to get out of debt, we switched over. We did a lot more cooking at home. We did a lot more meal prepping. We changed. I've talked about this in some of my videos. We changed where we were doing our grocery shopping. We noticed we were doing our grocery shopping at a store called Publix, which is a grocery chain over on the East Coast. And we said, you know what? Maybe we should try doing our grocery shopping at Aldi Supermarket or Lidl Supermarket. And those are a couple other grocery chains. So we tried that, and we cut our grocery bill by 30%, pretty much overnight. So that was a big change, and obviously changing from eating out once or twice a week, which isn't a terrible amount. That's not that many times. It's not eating out every night, but going from doing that to eating out, if we ate it once a month, it was lucky for us. Um, so that was a big lifestyle change, and then the things you do, like what kind of activities do you do, prior to going on this debt-free journey that we went on. We were, I was a business owner. We were going on vacations. We were going on trips. We would pick out some new, city or a new state that we wanted to go visit every year, every half a year, every 6 months. And we would go visit that city and just take a 2-week vacation because we could. We had, I had I guess I thought I had the money to do it. So we would do that, and we'd have a good time. We'd spend a lot of money, $2,000-3,000 on a trip. And we were frugal on the trip, but still we were taking that trip at least once or twice a year. And so once we started going into that debt-free journey mode, all those trips that they were gone. We were like, all right, if we want to go on a vacation, we can go drive and visit family. That's our vacation. So that was kind of those were kind of three big lifestyle changes that we went through, and it ended up that now we're it's for the better in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I hear you on the lifestyle change. At first, it was tough because there's always an adjustment period, but now I wouldn't change it for the world. Speaking of lifestyle, do you think that a lot of the marketing that we see nowadays, oh, upgrade to the newest phone, or oh, hey, your lease is up, come lease your second car, which is something that we've both done. Do you think that a lot of the marketing that we see nowadays from these large corporations has had an impact on our lifestyle, and kind of has caused us to go into debt and kind of like put our budget out of whack?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that, and I can't blame these corporations because, they have marketing teams and people that they pay to do their marketing, and their objective, their job is to get people to spend as much money with them as possible. So they're just out there doing their job. They're out there, they're out there trying to get paid for what they do. And I've done work for a marketing firm. I've done video work for marketing firms and things like that. So I completely understand. I don't blame these companies, but I do agree with you. All this advertising, and it's forever becoming more, intertwined in things like social media. You see ads like so frequently you don't even realize you don't realize that you're seeing them so often, and then all of a sudden oh, I got to buy this, I got to go do that. So yeah, definitely the prevalence of advertising and marketing of these things that we just don't really need, a lot of the times is definitely contributing to increasing loads of credit card debt and consumer spending.
Yeah, you made up some really good points there. I was actually I had I did a live stream with my friend Hannibal last week on Tuesday. We talked about mental health, and we were talking about, because he's been following the economy news a lot more closely than I am. He talked about how, you know the American, or the GDP for the U.S. is based on 70% of of the 100% of the GDP, 70% is based on consumer spending. And I didn't really think much of it when he said. I mean, obviously 70% is a big number, but not now that you're making some really good points. I'm thinking about, of all the jobs that, that depends on people spending, and how the wheel kind of needs to keep going, and how people need to keep spending to keep all these jobs afloat and stuff. Um, we talked about, getting out of debt. And I kind of want to talk about, how getting out of debt has helped us, save more money. Maybe you're trying to, uh come up with a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, or maybe you're trying to invest a little bit. And we're not going to get into investing because neither Andrew or I, or we're not licensed financial professionals. But I want to talk about a little bit about how having that, excess income each month can help you kind of, put you financially ahead. What are some of the things that you did with the excess money once you got out of debt?
So, some of the big things are, well, there once we were debt free, we kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit in terms of like, all right, no eating out at restaurants and stuff like that. So, we'll generally spend a little bit of money at restaurants every month, and we plan to spend $100 or $150 at restaurants. So that's been a real nice way that we can use some of our extra money now that we're out of debt. But I think really what you want me to talk about here is investing and saving money.
Mhm.
And so it's just been really interesting to see like how quickly we can amass money now that we're debt free, and we've been able to max out Roth IRAs for both my wife and I ever since becoming debt free. And we've been able to now begin saving for my son's college fund, in the 529 plan, nice and early before he's even 1 year old, which is really going to be a blessing, and hopefully save him from some of the mistakes that burdened me in my 20s with all the student loan debt. So that's been big, and then also purchasing our first home is like something that we've been able to do. We were able to save up that down payment for the home pretty easily, and I think we only did about 5% down payment when we purchased our home, because that's just the amount of down payment that we needed to get the mortgage rate that we wanted. Um, but it's not just about the down payment. You have to pay for closing costs, and you have to pay for your inspections, and you have to pay for your appraisal, and you have to pay for your real estate attorney to go over the contract and everything. So I mean, there's a lot of costs that go into purchasing a home. I think probably for us, the total all-in cost when we went to purchase our home was between $20,000 and $30,000. So that's cash we had to have on hand up front, and it was we found it very easy to save up that money once we were debt free. So again, I have to really credit being out of debt to our ability to go and purchase a home, because had we not been debt free, our debt to income ratio would have been way too high for us to get any kind of loan that we would have helped us to afford the home we want. And also just that initial down payment and the cost of purchasing a home would have been really difficult to save up that money to make that happen.
And did you buy your home during the pandemic, during the lockdowns?
So we bought in. I think our closing date was back in April of 2021.
Okay.
So we started looking for our home in February of 2021, and we ended up putting in this home that we ended up purchasing was the third offer that we submitted. The first two we were outbid, just like you hear about all these home prices going crazy and out of control. I think the first one we offered 20,000 over the asking price, and we were outbid there. And then the second home that we put an offer in on, I think we offered like, I think it was 65,000 over asking price, and we got outbid there. And then the funny story, the home we wound up with, We actually got it for I think it was 14,000 under asking price. We were able to negotiate with the buyer to get a lower price, just because the home was on the market for a little bit longer, so it wasn't such a bidding war situation.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to find that home. Do you, or if you feel comfortable sharing, do you know why that home was on the market for longer compared to others?
So I have a few suspicions, and it's mostly just what my real estate agent had suggested to me. And by the way, I'll just take a moment to, like, if you're going to buy a home, like, find yourself a really good real estate agent to represent you, because and they're worth every penny. Because I've seen situations where a seller agent might say, hey, if you come without a real estate agent, we'll give you X amount of dollars off, or we'll give you preference, because the seller's agent will represent both you and as the buyer, and as well as the seller. But I think it's completely valuable to work with a real estate agent that is just in your corner. They Ours earned his money, because we were about to with this home, we were about to offer the asking price, or even higher than the asking price. And he was like, no, wait, we can offer below the asking price. And he saved us a significant amount of money by making that recommendation. But anyway, so the home we're in, he suggested that it might have been on the market for a couple of reasons, a little bit longer. And this is maybe something that you can look for if you're looking to buy a home. I think this house was a little bit of an ugly duckling. Number one, the photos of the home were just not that great. So we couldn't really tell, from the photos. We originally, we had seen this home when we were looking through listings, but we passed it up because the photos sucked, and it just didn't look like that nice of a place. So the photos were pretty crummy. Looked like someone had just kind of walked through and taken them with their cell phone, which is, if you have those kind of photos versus like the beautiful real estate photos that you see on most listings, like which house is going to have a line out front? It's going to be the one with the beautiful photos. So kind of a mistake by the seller in that part. Number two, the home inside, it wasn't super like clean. Like there was, maybe some they had kids, so maybe there was some like food on the wall. Kids are at first we were like, how is there food on the walls? Like, how did food get here? And then we have a 7 months old son, and we were like, oh, okay, we understand how food got on the walls. So things like that. The oven had some kind of, that, like, the stove wasn't cleaned, like things like that just made you think like, okay, maybe this is less than ideal, not turnkey. And then there was the painting was, the walls were just, they needed to be painted. So like one of the things we noticed when we were looking at the house was there was these spots on the ceiling, and we're like, well, what are those spots on the ceiling? It looks like someone just was stepping on the ceiling or something like that with dirty feet. And it, from what we were told by the seller, it was their one of their kids was bouncing a volleyball off the ceiling in several of the rooms. So like, they had tried to do like touch ups, and it looked really sloppy. And so, like, one of the first things I had to do when we moved in here was, before we got anything in here, I repainted all the ceilings, which was a big pain in the butt. But that I was fine doing it. And I repainted the walls in several of the rooms, just because the color choice was no good and the paint job was crummy. So just, those kind of things, like, look for the crummy paint job, look for the homes that are like, it wasn't staged or anything. There wasn't like any furniture in here that could help us envision like what the home was going to be like. It wasn't like cleaned up, like to be like spotless and immaculate. Those are the kind of things that really help homes sell. And I think in this case, our home was on the market for a little while, and maybe they overpriced it at first, because they had done a couple price drops, and in this kind of market, like, you don't want to have a home that's been on the market for like a month, because then people are like, what's wrong with it, what's going on? That house has got something. There's some problem with it. The people aren't buying it. So those are the kind of things you want to look for. Crummy photos, just sloppiness on the part of the cleanliness, and maybe it's been on the market for a little bit long.
Yeah, you brought up really good points there. It's funny how you brought up the realtor or the real estate agent aspect of it, because my sister and her husband, they bought a house, or they closed last year in August. But they were working with, I think they were working with a realtor, but he wasn't very experienced, so they were having a little bit of trouble, buying a house. But I was able to put them in touch with, someone from one of my someone in my network. She's a high volume seller, and they were able to. Well, I mean, California is just it's a completely different animal when it comes to
Yeah,
real estate. But yeah, they put a couple offers down on, similar to you. They put a couple down, or a couple offers on previous house, but they got outbid. You typically by people who are paying cash, which I don't know. That's a different discussion. But they were able to buy their current house at value, which, it might not seem like a lot, but in California that's huge.
yeah.
Because you're able to buy a house, but not only that, but at an offer. So definitely don't skimp out on realtors. So I agree with you. Definitely makes a big difference. Speaking of buying houses, what type of advice would you give to someone who finds themselves in maybe 150 $200,000 debt, because that's the average. You and I both, we kind of came from, the Dave Ramsey philosophy. And me personally, I don't agree with everything that he says. I don't think you do either, because we still use credit cards and all that stuff. But he says, you're a slave to your if you're in debt, you're a slave to the lender and all that good stuff. But in terms of like your day to day and your lifestyle, and what type of jobs you have to work, what type of advice would you give to someone who wants to buy a house, but they find themselves a little bit of debt right now?
I think that if you're in that amount of debt and you're not debt free, I think that your priority really should be paying off that debt, and becoming debt free. I think that's a good first step towards owning a home, because if we were owning this home at the same time that we had all this debt and all these monthly payments, I can tell you that our lives would be a lot more stressful right now. Just a couple examples of why. Uh, there's been a couple times where our washer or dryer have malfunctioned and needed to be repaired, and it was kind of like an unexpected expense. Um, and luckily, we were able to fix them ourselves and not have to pay for any kind of repairs or replacement. But we had that money in our pocket. If we needed to go out and buy a new washing machine, we would have been able to do that. A couple months ago, our garage door spring broke. And garage door springs, you can't DIY them. It's like no one recommends that you do it yourself. So we had to call a professional, have someone come out and do it, to replace it, and it was like over $300 to have the garage door spring replaced. And like if we were on that really really tight budget because we were trying to pay off debt and we just didn't have that flexibility in our budget and have an emergency fund set aside, um, that would have been a real strain on the budget that month. And another aspect of it is furnishing the new home. So like when we purchased this home, we moved from somewhere that was like a 2 bedroom, 700, 800 square foot townhome, into this home that we're in, which is a little over 2,000 square feet, and it's got 4 bedrooms. So there's certain things that we needed to do to purchase to furnish it. We had a love seat and we wanted to get a bigger sofa because the love seat looked really comical in our living room now. And we wanted to get some area rugs. We wanted to get a dining room table, and we wanted to get a mattress for the guest room because we never had a guest room before. We wanted people to, we were having people come visit and sleep on an air mattress, and we are just being debt free. We didn't have to necessarily choose between paying more towards our debt and buying these other things that we really wanted to kind of make our home feel like we wanted it to, and feel homey. Um, the big thing for me was like the carpet in the living room, because in our living room we have like just wood floors. But putting the carpet down on top of that, we got like an area rug to put there. That was a big deal. It seems like it's something small, but it was a big deal. And if we were still paying off debt, it would be tough to justify an area rug over a couple hundred extra dollars towards your debt if you're paying off debt at that monthly spending plan meeting that my wife and I had, and we still have. So I think it's huge to be debt free in terms of owning a home. And if you're in that level of debt, I think that your focus needs to be 100% on, hey, let's get this debt paid off, and then we can take that step of saving up and purchasing a home. Because you'll have that financial flexibility, if unexpected expenses come up, and there's other expenses that have come up too. I mean, utility costs have been much higher than they were when we were in our townhome. In the townhome, we had the water paid for every month already. We had the trash collection paid for. Like, that's an extra like $80 or $90 a month that we have to pay for those things now, that we didn't have to before. Electricity's been more expensive, obviously, with having multiple floors and more square footage. Our gas bill's been higher in the winter with the gas heating system. I don't know if you have that problem, John, with the heating over there in California.
No, I don't
As
think we do. We have electricity problems though.
um, yeah, and then, like, another thing that came up was like our water heater was super old, so we were able to like replace our water heater. We had the money set aside to do that. We didn't have to wait until let's ride this thing till it breaks so that we can pay as much toward our debt. No, we didn't have to have that kind of attitude. We were like, all right, let's proactively replace this thing now so that we don't get in a pickle, and not have hot water for a few days while we wait for a plumber. So there's these kind of things that just being debt free opened up those opportunities as a homeowner.
Yeah, definitely. You made some really good points because I think a lot of people underestimate, how expensive it is to become a homeowner. I'm not a homeowner yet, but I know from friends and family members how expensive it can be. And one of the things that I wanted to say was that you don't have to become debt free if you're just if you want to buy a home. For me, I'm still saving my way to buying my first home, but even as someone living in LA, where rent is expensive, it's probably just it's in some areas more expensive to rent than to buy. So if I were to go out and rent an apartment right now or a studio for myself, it's about a studio is about $1,500 to $2,000, and then one bedroom apartments anywhere from like 2,000 to 2,300. So it's really expensive, and that kind of motivated me to get out of debt because it's like I had once I looked at my finances and I compiled everything. My minimum payments were about $1,500 a month total. My car, my credit card, my student loans, insurance, or not insurance, but all the minimum payments plus on top of that, my insurance and obviously I have to eat too, right? But yeah, I'm like, how am I gonna be able to pay rent comfortably if if I have all these minimum payments? And so yeah, I think getting a debt is a really good thing. So one of the points that you made was that you're not stressed out. You're out of debt. You pay. You guys bought a home, a beautiful home, and let's play devil's advocate a little bit here because I know a lot of people who buy houses while they're still in debt. Still in debt. What do you think your lifestyle would have been if you hadn't gone debt? I would imagine that you and your wife both had to work, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a situation where, if we were still in debt, we would have those minimum payments that would be tied to working, whatever jobs necessary in order to make those payments every month. And I know I alluded to this at the top, is just like that freedom that at least I had in this situation where I could say, all right, you know what? We don't necessarily want to go and send our son to daycare yet because there's a risk of COVID and everything. So just keeping him home, having the opportunity to raise him for the first 8 months of his life so far, has been really great. So I think that those kind of things are just priceless. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carlos here brought up a really good point. I wanted to ask you what your thoughts on this are. He said, personal finance is something school should have taught us, but since it didn't, I'm glad people like you guys help the community become educated on that. You could thank Andrew, not me. I don't talk about personal finance. But yeah, do you think I think we're starting to see it more because especially on the East Coast, I hear about news where, personal finance is gonna start being taught in high school. Do you think that's something that should be taught early on?
Yeah, I think it's great to have people learning about this kind of stuff. I mean, that's why I have my YouTube channel, because I think it's so important for people to learn about it. That being said, I think that the things that you learn in grade school and in high school, you have to continue that education into adulthood, because if you're not actually doing it, I'll be honest, I probably would have had a hard time learning about like interest rates and like index funds and different retirement accounts.
Boring stuff.
If I was in like eighth or ninth grade, I would just not necessarily be super interested in that stuff. So it would be a tough sell on 13 or 14-year-old me. But as you're starting to get into this stuff, as you're starting to do it yourself, that's really when you can start to really learn and apply that kind of knowledge, which is, I think, when you really start to get some traction. So, but I think having that good foundation in school is really important. So I know that I've noticed that some of my YouTube videos on my channel get incorporated into different online learning platforms, and are used by certain people for classes and whatnot. So I have every so often I'll have a class of students watching one of my videos, probably for one of their homework assignments, which is really cool. And I think it's so valuable to learn some of these really basic things, even as someone who's still in grade school or middle school or high school. And learning about like things like what a debit card is and how that works. What are the dangers of credit cards? How does interest on a credit card work? What happens if you don't pay your credit card off in full every month? Like, they'll send you a bill for like $15 or $25, but really you have thousands of dollars that are on your credit card, and you're going to be paying $25 a month for 6 years. So it's like, learning about these kind of things is important, just so that people and students, young people have an idea that, hey, this is something you need to learn about and be interested in, and continue learning about into adulthood. I think that's where people like me can kind of fill the gap, with teaching you about adult personal finance topics.
Man, that's amazing. The fact that people in earlier in school are watching your channel. That's amazing. And I wanted to ask you what I guess like what are some of the reasons why you wanted to get on YouTube and start creating the content that you've been making about personal finance.
So I think probably the biggest reason why I wanted to jump on YouTube and create my channel, Practical Personal Finance, has been, just that journey of becoming debt free. That was like the big impetus, and like, all right, this is what my YouTube channel needs to be about, because this is the experience that I've lived. And I always think about, like, all right, what is my what makes me legitimate? Like, why would people listen to me to talk about a certain topic? And if I can say, all right, I paid off over $180,000 of debt, and now I'm debt free, and I've done these other things in my life, like maybe someone will see that and say, hey, you know what, I'm like 2 steps behind you, Andrew. I want to do these same things. Like, let me learn from you and hear about what you did, so I can apply it to my own life and get to the point where you're at. So I think that's really what led me to start my YouTube channel. And the other aspect of it is, I've been in the video production business for over 10 years now. Graduated from college with a degree in video production. So it was just natural for me to always, I want to have a YouTube channel. I felt like I should always have a YouTube channel. And so this opportunity finally came along, where I said, "Yeah, this is what it's going to be about."
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that because growing up, we're around the same age. Do you think growing up and not having YouTube or the internet to kind of depend on information for personal finance, or lack of it, do you think that that kind of also inspired you to create your YouTube channel because you're like, hey, I didn't grow up being exposed to this stuff, but I want to help the future generation? Do you think that kind of played a role in it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had some exposure to it growing up, and I haven't talked about this a ton on my channel yet. But back in middle school, I started working when I was in 6th grade. So I started my first job back when I was what was I, like 12 years old, 12, 13 years old. The second I could work, I was working legally. The second I could work legally, I had a job. And at one point, like early in high school, I was working 3 jobs. So I had 3 part-time jobs. I was delivering newspapers, I was working at the library, and I was working in a jewelry production facility, a small jeweler in town, and making jewelry for a big name jewelry manufacturer. I'll leave it at that. Um, so I've always had this interest in earning money and managing money, all these sorts of things. I kind of lost my way a little bit when I was in college, and spent a lot of money and loaned a lot of money. And just like you, John, I figure, oh, I'm gonna have a 6-figure salary when I get out of college, or I'll have plenty of money. I can just pay this all back real easy, no problem. Um, but yeah, I've always been interested in it, but I think that other people, they don't necessarily have that interest. So I think filling that gap it's important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. When I was in my 20s, I felt like I had all the time in the world, and it's funny because like the second I turned 30, I'm like, obviously it's just it's probably because the number 30. But when I turned 30, I was like, man, I don't have anything in retirement. Like, what did I do for the last 10 years? So, do you think that a lot of us brush off in our 20s because we feel like we have so much time in the world?
Yeah, I think it's that same kind of thing where you know you feel like when you're younger and you're a teenager, they say like, all right, teenagers feel like they're invincible. They can't be hurt, so they do these crazy things. They speed in cars and get in these accidents and stuff. And you just feel like you're invincible. In your 20s, you feel like you have all the time in the world. You can do whatever you want, and you can save for retirement some other time. It doesn't really matter. But it's really that's just not the case. Like the earlier you start saving, the earlier you do these kind of things, the better off you're going to be. So yeah, you're absolutely right there. Where it's like you don't want to waste that time. It's all very valuable, and the earlier you start saving, the earlier that you can actually reach retirement. And I don't even think of retirement like as a specific age that you're gonna get to this specific age and then you're gonna retire. I think of it more as, hey, as soon as you have this much money saved up and set aside, where to a point where you don't necessarily have to work anymore, that's when you can step aside from your job whenever you want. And I mean, what are you going to do when you step aside from your, like I've asked, I've had this conversation with certain people, and the question is like, all right, if I have this money to quote unquote retire, um, what are you going to do when you retire? And it's like, hey, I might do, something else that I really enjoy. I might just keep working my job because I like what I'm doing on a daily basis. So, retirement's not necessarily like an age you get to, or like some kind of goal where you're just gonna, sleep in every day. Like you're always gonna want to do something, and who knows what it's gonna be.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you brought up retirement because we in my household we don't really talk about retirement. I don't know if it has to do with the culture because I'm Armenian, so we're kind of like Italians and Middle Easterns. In the sense that I don't know. I don't think we believe in retirement. So my dad, he's in his early 70s now, and knock on wood, but he's still going strong and he's more active than I am. I don't think he plans to retire anytime soon. He might, in my opinion, I think he just wants to, keep working, for the rest of his life. So retirement wasn't really something that talked about, when I was growing up. But and not to get into the whole technical about what you should invest and stuff. The 401k essentially, from my understanding, is through your employer. Or if you're self-employed like me and Andrew, you can have what's called a solo 401k as well. Do you think that a lack of understanding in terms of like these retirement account vehicles also has an effect? Excuse me. Also has had an effect on people being able to retire. Kind of if you take it out, there's a penalty. But later on, I learned a Roth IRA, you can pull your money out at any time, even though you shouldn't. You still can. There's no penalty. Do you think that a lack of education, understanding, kind of keeps people away from retire or saving up for retirement at an early age?
Yeah, I think that there is just generally kind of a misunderstanding of retirement accounts out there. I mean, I personally didn't understand it until I really started educating myself about this stuff. And the first thing I like to always tell people is like a retirement account is just like a regular savings account. Like if you know what a savings account is at your bank, like you have your savings account, your checking account, like a retirement account, like a 401k or a Roth IRA is just like a savings account with a fancy name and fancy rules attached to it. And then inside that savings account, you don't just have to hold money. You can hold other things like assets. And those assets can be like stocks and shares of companies, bonds, which is essentially you loaning money out to other companies or governments or things like that. So there's all these there's different types of accounts which can seem scary at first, but really they're just other types of savings accounts with special rules attached to them. And a lot of those rules help tremendously when you're trying to save up for your later years when you're gonna need that income and that extra money for I know you said like your dad John like never gonna retire, but like there's gonna come a day when he might not be able to physically work anymore. He might something might happen to him, God forbid, like he hurts himself or he has some kind of condition where he's like, all right, I can't actually work anymore. I need to stop what I'm doing. Um, so just that misunderstanding of what those accounts are, and helping people understand them, I think it will make them seem less scary, so that people can invest money into them. And so a lot of the advantages have to do with taxes. So like with a Roth IRA, Roth IRA and 401k are a little bit different with how the taxes work on them, but in general the taxes on that money that you deposit into these retirement accounts, there's some kind of tax advantage. You either don't pay taxes up front on that money, it gets taken out of your paycheck before taxes get taken out, or you don't pay taxes on the back end in the case of the Roth IRA when you're withdrawing that money after it's grown and evolved and over time in those assets that you've purchased with that money. So that's kind of I do agree with you that more education on these types of accounts will make them seem less scary, less daunting, and encourage more people to use them.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. And staying on topic of lack of education, when I talk to some of my relatives or even my friends that aren't, they're not very educated on investing and saving up for retirement, things that are gonna really benefit you financially, especially in long term. When I talk to them, anything that has to do with investing, they tell me, "Oh, the stock market is like gambling in Vegas." So I'm like, there's nothing guaranteed technically, but no, I would beg to differ. And again, I don't want to get in details because none of us are, we're not licensed financial professionals. What I guess what I'm trying to get at is also, even though there's a lack of information, there's also a lot of bad information. Or on YouTube, there are channels that kind of help what's called a pump and dump. They'll try to pump up a certain stock or a certain asset to get you to buy. Do you have any advice on helping people who are looking for a reliable source of information other than checking out your YouTube channel? Obviously, is there any advice that you have on people who can kind of get objective advice without getting bad information online?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to point to something that's offline when you ask me for something online, but there's a couple books that I would recommend if you really want to educate yourself about investing and retirement planning, these kind of things. There's a couple really good books. One of them would be the Coffee House Investor, and that one is just really simple investment strategy that anyone can do, and it's real easy, and the book is super short. It's a really thin book, so you could probably read it in a day or two. And then the other one would be the Bogleheads. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the Bogleheads
Mhm.
Guide to Retirement Planning. And that book was so good. It's simple, plain English, how all these different accounts work, how different types of insurance work to your benefit and or detriment, and uh, that's the kind of information that I think is unbiased and is kind of the same core idea that I would promote on my channel. Would be those two kind of books: Coffee House Investor and the Boglehead's Guide to Retirement Planning.
Yeah, those are really good books. There's also a Boglehead's thread on Reddit. One of my personal finance resources is personal finance on Reddit. Again, I'm not sure about as a some of the advice on there, but as a whole, it seems like people just give honest advice because they think that they've been there just starting out. So I think that's also a decent option for finding good good source for learning how to invest and saving money and stuff. But I know the Moon Next Door is also a really good story, a book. Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's another good one. There's
Hmm.
another one that I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's no. Usually the books that are popular, they're usually good sources of information for to improving your personal finance. Um, Also, basically, my rule of thumb is that if someone's really trying to push you to sell something or invest in something, then it's probably not a reliable source of income. Not to say
Yeah.
that the ones that have courses and stuff, you can't trust them. But my rule of thumb is basically, take your time. Don't rush to anything. Check several sources. Really think about it and don't rush to anything. But that would be my advice. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone that's telling you which stocks to pick, or if they're saying, anything that makes the stock market sound like it's gambling, then I think you're in the wrong place. I wouldn't encourage, if someone's really new to investing, to just trying to save for retirement, do the basics correct. I wouldn't advise. Don't even look at like cryptocurrencies. Don't look at individual stocks. Don't look at different asset classes like art or like gold or things like that. Just look at the basics. Look at total stock market funds. Look at index funds. Look at 401ks. Look at Roth IRAs. Look at target date funds. That's another great option for someone that just doesn't necessarily want to put a bunch of time and effort into this. Hey, if you've got a 401k from your employer and you can put money into that 401k and then just advise that it be put into a target date fund, and you just pick the year that's closest to when you're going to retire, or when you'd like to retire, then the fund will automatically do the investing for you, and it's a completely hands off approach, and you're going to be in good shape when it comes time to retire. And then if you want to, go a little deeper, if you want to learn more and do more things, then yeah, you can start going into your 401k and fine tuning where that money is going into your, opening a Roth IRA and being able to choose, different, you know, uh, index mutual funds based on the total stock market or international market. But try to stick to the broadest possible investments is what I would suggest, because the more broad, the less risk there is. And if you're investing in a single company, some bad news could come out about that company. Think about like Enron, and then everything can go downhill all of a sudden. But if you're invested in the entire total stock market, there's much less risk involved there, than there would be if you were investing in things that are highly volatile, like single companies or different currencies or different stores of value like gold.
Yeah, definitely. That's really good advice, Andrew. And Andrew give you guys some, really good place to start in terms of index funds. In my 20s, going back to, 20, 25-year-old John, I used to, invest in, single stocks and stuff, and I did pretty decent. But at the same time, I just realized that, I would make some money on certain stocks and lose some money, so it became a wash. But with index funds, as Andrew pointed out, they're basically it's kind of like a stock, but it has holdings in like some of the biggest companies like Apple and Amazon and Facebook and all that good Google and all that good stuff. So those tend to be a little bit on the safer side compared to like a penny stock or something like that. But again, we're not going to get into that stuff because that's not what this channel is all about. But as we get closer to the hour mark, and I want to give everyone in chat an opportunity to put any questions that they might have for me or for you. Do you have any closing thoughts, Andrew?
It's personal finance is a journey. It starts with having a vision for what you want your life to be, and personal finance is going to be one part of that vision. So really, what I would encourage everyone to do is, come up with that vision and what do you want your life to look like, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, even further into the future than that, if you like. I think 10 years is a good amount because crazy things can happen within 10 years. When you look at the rise of certain companies and individuals, but think about what you want your future to look like. And does it involve debt? Are you a homeowner? How much do you have saved up for when you ultimately want to retire? What are you doing for your job? How much are you spending every month? What kind of car are you driving? These kind of questions. And think about that, and then come up with a plan that will help you achieve that vision. um, and make sure you think about that vision. Write it down, put it somewhere that you're going to see every day. Write down some of these goals that you have financially, and just keep working towards them little by little, and you'll make it there. And I think that's really the what I learned in this whole journey of becoming debt free and becoming a homeowner, and eventually becoming a parent. It's just been all about having that vision, knowing what I want to achieve, setting the goal, coming up with a plan, and just executing on the plan little by little. That would be my closing thought. And it's a journey. It's personal for everyone. It's my experience is not going to be exactly the same as anyone else's experience. Not everyone's going to have a car they can inherit from their grandmother. Not everyone's going to be able to switch grocery stores and save 30% on their grocery bill every month. Some people are going to have hobbies that are a little bit more expensive than mine. Some people are going to need to buy plane tickets to go and visit family. So there's going to be all kinds of different situations where my experience is different than yours. But it's personal finance is personal. And you got to get there at your own speed. But if you set the goals and have the vision, you will get there.
Yeah, that's extremely solid advice, and exactly, I agree with your sentiment that personal finance is personal is different for everyone. Andrew, you have an awesome YouTube channel. Where can people find you?
So my YouTube channel is Practical Personal Finance, and that's generally where I post most of my content. I try to post it in blog form as well, on my website, which is practical p or I think it's just practicalpersonalfinance.com, is where you can find that. So that's that. It might be practical p. I'm thinking it's practicalpf.com. Don't quote me on that. Let me
I'll
check
post
real
it in the
quick.
show notes. I'll
He'll
post it in
post
the
it in
show
the
notes.
show notes.
Yeah.
He'll post it in the show notes what it actually is. I don't know my own web URL. That's funny. Um, but my YouTube channel, which is where most of my content is Practical Personal Finance. You can find me there. I've generally tried to post at least once per week since I started my YouTube channel back in at the beginning of the pandemic. Surprisingly enough, back in April of 2020. And I've been pretty consistent. I've got nearly 200 videos on there with all different types of topics about personal finance. Hopefully, some of them can help you out.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely post all your links in the show notes. And again, Andrew, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hop on a stream with me and talk a little bit of personal finance. Thanks to everyone who stopped by in the chat. Appreciate you guys stopping by. And also, if you guys are watching a replay, if you have any questions, just post them in the comment section, and Andrew and I will do our best to answer them. But thanks again for everyone stop by. Have a great night, and take care.
Take care, y'all. Thanks, John.
You got it.